Welcome back to the K&L Sports Huddle. Back for another episode here for y'all. I'm your host, Cage Kiplinger, joined as always by my co-host, Logan Hubert. How we doing today, man? Did you get to see any fireworks on 4th of July?
From a distance, yeah. Didn't go out to see any this year, but we still had a good weekend. Yeah, celebrated the 4th. It was hot, perfect swimming weather.
Sure
Really
was.
got to see Joey Chestnut win another hot dog eating contest.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Nothing more
great
American
holiday
than
weekend.
that, right?
No, and I mean, people aren't wrong comparing him to Bill Russell and Brady and the greats, because I don't know if you'll ever see a guy dominate a competition that many years.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I went to a couple lakes, got my arms burnt a little bit. Um, Ready to go for this week's episode. We got really good episode here for you guys. We're gonna quickly run through NBA free agency. A lot of different things happened in the past week with that. And then as we feel like we've been teasing for many weeks now, we're finally getting into our NFL division previews. We're starting with the AFC East, but let's get to NBA free agency, the frenzy going on right now. We'll just start with the most recent news that the Orlando Magic have extended Paolo Banchero in a 5-year max extension worth up to $287 million. Chris Paul addressed that next season will be his last after a 20-year career. He's a free agent still, so he's looking for a final home for his farewell tour. The Kevin Durant trade got actually some more news cycled around it because it made some history in the NBA as it became the first 7-team trade in NBA history. I'm not even going to go through all of it. It's just wild what everyone's getting. And even the Rockets are bringing back Clint Capella. And the Oklahoma City Thunder have extended SGA to a 4-year, $285 million contract. Makes it the richest contract in NBA history in terms of average annual value at $71.25 million. It's the third largest in terms of total value behind just Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. As far as the Milwaukee Bucks are concerned, they waived Damian Lillard. So he gets to go wherever he wants to, and he doesn't even have to play anywhere. He's still going to get paid. So he's in a pretty nice situation outside of the injury. But they do sign Miles Turner to a 4-year, $107 million deal, taking him out of Indy for the first time in his career. He's been there, decade. He's been a staple of the Pacers, but now don't know how much it moves the needle. He's kind of just a little bit younger Brook Lopez in some ways, but we'll see how it works out for Giannis and the guys up in Milwaukee. The New York Knicks finally hire a head coach, and it doesn't have much sizzle as they bring in Mike Brown to be the new head coach. I don't have much on this. I just don't know if it's going to do much for their team, their cause, because
It was the right move, though. It was the right move to what we talked about. This, you don't bring in an inexperienced guy with
right.
your current situation. So yeah, I think it was good.
Awesome. And DeAndre Ayton is headed to the Lakers. They finally get a center, but doesn't play much defense. There's obviously a lot of funny videos out there of him just standing under the baseline, watching a ball go up 4 or 5 times. Whew, man, the defense for this team is going to be rough next year. We'll see what happens with the Lakers. But Frank Vogel, former Lakers head coach, championship winning coach, is going on as a lead assistant coach under Jason Kidd in Dallas. So they're definitely trying to load up there with some knowledgeable people, as well as bringing on Cooper Flagg. So, got any notes for me there on those topics, Logan?
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, Aiton's better than what anything the Lakers had. They needed to get somebody to play the center position. Does it move the needle for them in terms of the loaded Western Conference? No, it does not. The Turner situation is just so interesting because no one really expected the Bucks to make any moves this offseason because of the financial situation they were in. So whenever we first heard that Turner was signing with the Bucks, most people were like, "Wait, how is that even possible? Where the Bucks getting this money from?" Then we find out they cut Damian Lillard, which I don't know. So, people saying it's unethical. I don't know. puts Damian Lillard in a pretty good spot once he comes back, where he can almost choose his team. And so it's
Right.
I mean, for the Bucks, it was an absolute failure. You never got out of the first round with this Lillard and Giannis duo, but I don't really see it too much as disrespectful. Honestly, if I was Dame, I'd be fairly happy with where I am. Um, it's funny watching all these analysts who only started watching the Pacers within the last month saying how this Miles Turner going to the Bucks is just horrible for the franchise. And no, it's not. He was definitely their worst starter in the finals. Um, he spent 10 great years in Indy, and the fans will for sure miss him. But I mean, the Pacers' ceiling is very, very low this coming year. If I were them, and I hope this is what they do, I hope they just experiment with what they got. Just try out. They just re-signed James Wiseman today. They signed Jay Huff from the Grizzlies, I believe, yesterday. They still have Isaiah Jackson, who didn't even play last year due to an Achilles tear. So, I mean, I think just try some bigs. If none of them work, that's fine, because this was going to be an experimental year anyway. So then you can use your cap space next year to look for some big guys. And then the SGA, yeah, obviously just well deserved. You got to keep your best player. You can't say overpay, because I mean, yeah, he deserved it. Same with Banchero. I mean, Magic. It looks like he's going to be a really good player. He definitely needs to start shooting a little better, but he's got all the talent in the world. And if you're a small market team like the Magic, very important to retain your guys. So good move for them as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see what Orlando does these next few years as as that young core grows together. I think it's going to be a dangerous team, especially in a really weak East that has been weakened even more.
I think they have a legit shot at winning the East next year. So, yeah.
No doubt with Tatum down in Boston and Indy not going to be anything next year. Cleveland, you can't trust them to do anything in the playoffs. So yeah, I totally agree. It's going to be interesting next year in the East. We'll see what Giannis does with Milwaukee. So it'll all come boiling down.
Yeah. One thing I don't even know if the Turner thing does much for the Bucks, anyways. Like, you look at their starting five now. I know Giannis highly advocated for Turner to be a Buck. So I assume that keeps Giannis happy, but that starting five's not very good. Like, it's not one you want to build with the absolute superstar in Giannis.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting next year to see how Giannis feels. But like, the East is weak, so I mean, they'll probably still be towards the top of that conference anyway.
Might be why he stayed and didn't, try to force management to send him elsewhere.
If you went out west, and I've never advocated for changing the whole East-West thing, because I think, yeah, some years East is going to be better than the West. Sometimes the West will be better than the East. But if Giannis actually went West this year, I think I would have considered, because this is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we are finally ready to get into football mode, and this is pretty much going to carry us into football season. So from here on out, that's what's going to dominate the podcast. I'm really excited that we get to do this each week leading up to the start of the regular season. We will start in the AFC East. This is the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, New York Jets, and New England Patriots. I just want to start with kind of the division as a whole. It's been kind of a mediocre division for a long time. I would say even during the Brady years, because I mean, the Patriots were dominant because they just took over that division and never looked back.
Mediocre might be too kind, if we're being honest.
I'm being a little generous. I am.
Yeah.
But post Brady, it's been dominated by the Bills. They just basically took over the regime, and they have taken this division by storm, and it's been no contest. Last season, Buffalo finished 13-4. Miami Dolphins finished 8-9. Jets 5-12, and the New England Patriots at 4-13. So all losing records outside of Buffalo. What are your thoughts, just broad thoughts over the whole division as we head into a new season here?
Yeah, it really has been the most predictable division for like the last 25 years. Because the Bills just took right over what the Patriots were doing, and it really hasn't even been close that many years. So yeah, Bills were really good last year. Again, 13-4. I think it was definitely one of their better regular seasons. I mean, they won 10 of their last 12 games, and their only two losses were Week 18, where they had nothing to play for, so they had their backups in. And if you recall that 44-42 loss to the Rams. So even in that one loss, when you're due for, you're usually
It was a hell of a game.
every team's due for a loss, but when you're lost, you lose by 2. When you score 42 points, it's still a pretty decent loss, fantasy point wise too, especially. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's theirs for the taking. I just don't see any of these teams unless something dramatically changes. When you look at the Dolphins, you say 8-9, that's fine, not too far off. And I don't know, it's hard to make out what they are. So they finished 8-9. The Tua injury pretty much derailed their season earlier in the year. Um, they started off, they won their first game of the year, and then Tua got hurt week 2, and they were never able to get above 500 the rest of the year. So it's not like they were ever really even contending for a playoff spot. So I mean, yeah, and even when Tua played, it wasn't. They were fine. He was way better than their backup situation. They were fine. Um, the Patriots are an interesting team. They were bad last year. Obviously, they have a new coach. They had 7 double-digit losses last year, but it was an experiment year. You had a rookie quarterback. But I mean, yeah, they could probably challenge Buffalo out of the other 3 teams. And the Jets, yeah, new head coach. They got lots of good names on their roster. Very similar to the Dolphins, lots of good names on their roster, but you just can't really trust them. And yeah, their quarterback situation, I'm sure we'll talk about later, is kind of iffy at the moment.
Well, let's start with the Bills. Like I said, 13-4 record last year. This year, they come in with the 23rd ranked strength of schedule. This is a playoff focused team. I mean, the regular season really does not matter outside of seeding. It's the ultimate question of, is Allen going to be able to get over the hump? Much like we'll talk about next week with Lamar Jackson, but it's been the battle of those two guys trying to get past Kansas City in the playoffs. So I don't even know that division even matters to the Bills at this point. They know they're going to take it. It's all about how they're going to stack up seeding wise against the other division winners in this conference. They got a deal by signing Khalil Shakir to a 4-year deal worth only $13.25 million. So I'll definitely be looking to see what kind of a jump he makes this season. This team goes when Allen goes, and with a weak division and, in my opinion, a bit of a weakened Kansas City Chiefs, it looks like an AFC title game against Baltimore is ripe for the taking right here. Maybe a rematch of last year's game. This time as an AFC championship game. They did get Joey Bosa in the offseason. Maybe he can revitalize his career after an multiple injury plagued seasons. I'd love to see a Bosa get back on the field and really do some great things on the Bills defense. One game that I'm really interested in seeing, if things hold true and he doesn't mess up, in the offseason, is Stephon Diggs making his return to Buffalo in Week 5 with the Patriots. Being in the same division now, it's going to be interesting to see him battle it out against his old team. But for me, with the Bills, it's just that if Allen can will this team to a Super Bowl, it'd be one impressive feat because there's really not another huge star on this team. And he seemed to do really well last season without Diggs. It seemed like he had a lot more freedom at the position to get it to who he wanted to instead of having to force it to Diggs. And I hope that continues this season. But I do feel like they need some more playmakers. I know that the James Cook situation, I don't know. He was the only one that didn't get extended from last year. So I don't know if that's going to be a distraction. I don't think it will be a huge thing for Buffalo, but we'll see what happens this upcoming season. What do you got on Buffalo?
Yeah, I agree that I think Allen thrived a little bit more without a true number one. I think James Cook is really good. I think he's a great pass catching back along with a runner. I mean, it helps take a little bit of the load off Josh Allen, who also likes to run. And he's just the Allen Cook duo. Like it scares defenses. It really does. And with that, you don't even need a dominant wide receiver. I mean, it would be helpful, but just the way the Bills operate, it's not. I don't think it's necessarily needed. Their defense, I just can't trust Joey Bosa staying on the field. I'm sorry. It's just when the Bills made that signing, I thought I know they played kind of. I mean, Von Miller is used as an edge, but Von Miller's a lot older. But I kind of viewed it similar to that, where Bosa obviously younger than Von Miller, but with Bosa's injury history, they're kind of on the same level of impact. I feel like when the Bills made that signing. So, but I mean, their defense is good. I mean, their defense has been good for a few years. It's just come postseason time, they're due for fourth quarter collapses, allowing the Chiefs to score at will. And so, like, I don't know if they need any more upgrades. I like their draft pick this year. I know I know he was just accused of sexual assault, but that's also kind of fishy because because I think it happened a couple of years ago, and she just did that after he got drafted. But yeah, Maxwell Harrison, their DB, I mean, I think he's going to be he'll fit right in, and I think he'll be a big impact on that defense. But what I'd like to ask you, and this is what I'm thinking is, let's say everything goes exactly the same, good regular season, losing the AFC Championship, likely to Mahomes. Let's say it's Lamar Jackson this time.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that put Sean McDermott? Because I view him almost exactly like Tom Thibodeau with the Knicks, where, I mean, the Bills were horrible, this century until he became a coach. And since he's become a coach, I mean, they've done nothing but make the playoffs, usually on deep playoff runs, make it to the AFC Championship game. They just can't get over the hump. If they can't get over the hump again, do you tease the idea of a new coach, or do you don't mess with winning? That's usually my philosophy, is don't mess with winning. You got a good thing going, and how much better could you even do? But when it's the same result over and over and over again, so the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's interesting, but yeah, I think the pressure's on them for sure. But yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on McDermott.
Yeah, I think McDermott's a great coach. Like I definitely see him as one of the better coaches in this league. I just think, it's not like he has a stacked roster like the Philadelphia Eagles coach. What's his name? Sirianni, yeah. He doesn't have a stacked roster that can just make up for any bad decisions that he makes. So any minor decisions that McDermott makes, the play against Baltimore, I believe last year, the fake that just snowballed in that game in the regular season, it was just a bad call. But it's obviously going to, he doesn't have the type of roster that's going to be able to make up for that. If they don't make it to a Super Bowl, I don't think they will make a change. I think Buffalo's pretty, I would say, loyal, or they feel like they're a pretty good establishment, that they wouldn't just jump to conclusions and move off a guy quickly like that. I also think, like I said, it's just not a stacked all-time roster, and a lot of the heavy lifting is done by Allen and a lot of times Cook as well. So I think it'll be more on just the fact that the AFC has all the best quarterbacks in the league, and it's just really tough to get out of the AFC and win a championship. Are you big on McDermott? Were they?
I think he's a great coach. I'm just looking at it from the Bills' perspective. Granted, like comparing it to basketball with the Knicks are a huge market, and so there's more demand for, hey, Thibodeau, he's terrible, even though he's been your best coach in 25 years, and you get him out. So yeah, Buffalo's smaller market, kind of seems more like a family culture. I don't see them. I think it would be wrong to get rid of him, because I don't know where you'd find an upgrade over him. Who do you go to? And yeah, but it would be interesting to see what they do. I mean, because you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I'm not talking about coaching, like I'm thinking like roster perspective. Like, what do you do then if you get the exact same result as the last 5 years?
I mean, then you look at the GM. I think if that's the case, if you're looking at roster building, then it's on the GM. Did McDermott come in as the coach at the same time Allen started for them, like his
No,
first year starting with them?
no, because that was I think he was coach that year that Tyrod Taylor was, it was when they made the playoffs for like the first time in
I got you.
however many years. Tyrod Taylor was their quarterback. I think they lost to Jacksonville in the wild card round, but I think that was McDermott's first year.
Yeah.
I may be wrong,
Uh,
but I'm 99% sure he coached that year. I think it was his first year too.
yeah. So I feel like him and Allen together, they've been together for so long still. It just works. It's just like I said, the AFC is so strong once you get into the playoffs. They can run roughshod in their own division, but I mean, when it comes time to go up against the Chiefs and the Ravens and all these top teams in the AFC, it's just it just I don't know that going after a new coach would be the right move because I don't know who like you said, who would you be able to go to outside of McDermott? Um, let's go into
I
the
will.
Miami
I
Dolphins.
will. I will say one. I'd like to just, because one thing to conclude each team's discussion. I know we'll go over like win
Yep.
totals at the end, but I'd just like to get this out of the way now. But I went through like each team's schedule, thinking like what's some good and some bad in it. Honestly, for the Bills, I think they got a fantastic schedule draw. Um,
Yeah.
their week one home games against Baltimore. So obviously, since they've won the division, they're going to be playing all the division winners, like the Chiefs, the Eagles are on the schedule and stuff. Baltimore. So they play week one against Baltimore, but then they do not play a team with a winning record until November 2nd. So they go basically the whole rest of September and all of October without playing a team with a winning record. 3 of those are divisional games, and 2 of those divisional games are at home. So they could almost have the division wrapped up, I feel like, come November, getting at 3-0, leading the division, and they could be like fighting for the number one, being the lead for the number one overall seed, come November when they face the Chiefs. But even then, like even after that, they're like difficult games against the Eagles, the Chiefs. Forget who else is in there. They're spread out.
Cincinnati's in there.
Cincinnati's in there, but none of they're not back to back or anything like
Yeah.
that. They're all
Yeah.
spread out. Like somehow they got a perfect draw with their schedule, so they really need to take advantage of that.
Yeah. None of the teams in this division have a strength of schedule inside the top 20.
They're
So this whole
it's
division got a
because
great draw.
they're playing the NFC South. The NFC conference they're playing is the division they're playing. Excuse me, is the NFC South, who did not have any fantastic teams last year and some bad
No.
teams.
Let's get into the Miami Dolphins. This is a team that, if you're a Dolphins fan, I'd be scared just because I don't know what's going to happen this year. It could go horribly wrong. It could go, I mean, surprisingly right. But I think it all comes down to, can Mike McDaniel get control of his locker room? To me, he's on the hot seat this year. Enough is enough.
You see some report today about Asante Samuel saying that it's the whole organization is run like a little league team.
Oh my gosh. No,
Yeah, I just saw
I had
that.
not seen
I
that.
saw that right before we logged on. I was like, "Wow, this is good timing."
Yeah. I mean, he's literally admitted, McDaniel has admitted that players will just simply not show up to practice. And he tries to get them to come, and they just won't come. And you know exactly who the players are. It's the top guys, because guys at the bottom of the roster aren't going to be the ones not showing up. They're trying to get a spot on Sunday. It's guys like Tyreek Hill. It's all these top guys. It was Jalen Ramsey most likely, but now he's gone. And because of that, after trading Ramsey, they might have the worst cornerback room in the league. But they do have Minka Fitzpatrick at safety to compensate. But for me, McDaniel's on the hot seat this season. Enough is enough. I don't know that he is enough of an alpha dog to be able to lead a team as a head coach. I think he'd be a great coordinator somewhere,
Oh,
but
he
I
is a
just don't know if the
fantastic.
head coach.
He has a fantastic offensive mind. Yeah, I'm not questioning that. I mean, that's why he got hired. But I was never on the. Oh, he's so quirky. He's so fun. Oh, like the Dolphins have such a great coach. There are so many people jumping on that early on. I was like, yeah, I could see it being fun for a couple of years, but I don't think it's sustainable. And sure enough, look where we are now. But yeah, he would be. He was a fantastic coordinator. I think he still. I think he would be a good coordinator for somewhere. But yeah, as for leadership purposes, yeah, I don't. It's not a greatly run organization. Um, yeah, I know those surveys that come out every year, like the NFLPA, like about like I mean, it goes over all kinds of stuff like cafeteria and like training facility and all that.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are like one of the highest rated teams, so that kind of tells you to be wary of any time. The best rated team might not be the greatest team to play for because you have too much freedom. Whenever you shouldn't, if you want to. I'm not saying you should have the Bill Belichick mantra of like off a general, but in terms of the McDaniel versus Belichick, you definitely want to be closer to the Belichick way of running things in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, and I just wonder if Miami's just a place that's going to be impossible to win at. There's a lot of distractions in Miami, and unless you have the exact right group of people, I just think it's really tough. You become accustomed to the warm weather down there that, even if you do make it to the playoffs, you're destined to face a Buffalo, a Kansas City, a Baltimore in the playoffs, and you're most likely going to be playing on the road in really cold, extreme cold temperatures. So I just wonder if this is just like a place that's going to be impossible to win at in Miami.
Yeah, and currently it doesn't help that Tua's injury history is not very fun to read. Um, I, the whole Tua thing's so difficult because it's hard to tell if he's a good quarterback or not. He's definitely the best quarterback the Dolphins have had recently, and they definitely need him on the field. I mean, it doesn't help they've had some absolutely abysmal backups these last few years. Once Tua has been hurt, which has been a really huge organizational failure. When you have an injury-prone QB, you need to have a backup you need to have like a Joe Flacco or somebody in there who can step right up and hold the team afloat till Tua gets back. But yeah, Tim Boyle, yeah, he was awful. Tyler Huntley, not very good either.
Is Tua the best quarterback they've had since Marino? Like, is there anyone in between that you would say is better than Tua?
Excuse me. I would say, yeah, because Tannehill peaked with the Titans. So, I mean, Pennington and the few years Pennington was there and Henne wasn't very good. So, yeah. I mean, they have one of the longest, if not the longest, playoff win drought. I know they've been in the postseason, but winning a playoff game, I'm pretty sure it might be the longest. Yeah, look that up. But so things about Tua is they're horrible without him, but when he plays, they do have the longest. Did you look it up?
Yeah, they have the longest win drought in NFL history, in the playoffs.
In the playoffs,
24 seasons. Yep.
24 seasons. Okay, so I mean, it's so, like I said, so interesting looking at Tua. When he doesn't play, they're awful, but when he does play, they're not great. I think he's in the Kirk Cousins realm of quarterbacks, where when he plays, you're not going to be bad, but you're not going to be contending. And a perfect example, he is last 2 years, he's 16-2 against teams that are 500 or worse, and he is 1-9 against teams that are better than 500. And if you look at his stats also drop off significantly amongst the two categories. I think he's thrown, it was like 35 touchdowns against the 500 or worse, and just 13 touchdowns and 12 interceptions against the better teams. So, yeah, I mean, they got guys. They got some really good guys. You got Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips on the defense, but they're also really injury prone. You can't trust them to stay healthy. The Tyreek situation, like we talked about, I would not be surprised if he gets traded sometime in the middle of the year. He could still even get traded within the next couple months or so. Yeah, I just think the good vibes that were there earlier with McDaniel are gone. My bold prediction is they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. I just think there's just too much going wrong right now that it's all going to come crashing and burning, and then they're going to do a full reset come next year. But I'd love to hear your thoughts because it might be different than mine. Because that is, I feel like that is a bold take because they're kind of slated in the league average right now, but I think they're going to be really bad next year,
No,
mostly due to injuries.
I'm totally on board with that take. If you're betting futures for this team, bet the under on wins. As a little preview to what we're going to be getting into the over under win totals, but I take the under at all times. I would not bet on this team. I would always bet against. Now their defensive front, I do want to mention that with Jalen Phillips coming back from IR, he missed all but 3 games last season with a torn ACL. If you put him alongside Chop Robinson, who had a higher pressure rate than the eventual Defensive Rookie of the Year, Jared Verse, you put him with him, you put him with Bradley Chubb, it could be one of the most disruptive defensive fronts in the league. I just think once you get to the backfield, I mean, once you get to the the secondary, it kind of is a little thin back there, even with Minkah Fitzpatrick. And then we're going to be on Tua concussion watch all year long. The scene from last year with the fencing, it was not a pretty sight, and I cringe every time I watch the Dolphins.
What do you think let's say everyone stays healthy the entire year? What would you say their ceiling is?
9-8.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the chances of them all staying healthy are slim to none. So, yeah, that's why I think it might all come crashing and burning this year.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about another team that has been crashing and burning all the time. Yep.
forgot the schedule part.
Oh yeah.
The one thing I wrote down for them. So we talked about cold weather. They're not a good cold weather team. They did luck out. They do not have to play Buffalo in December or January. They get them at Buffalo early in the year. Unfortunately, they do have to go to the Jets, Pittsburgh, and New England all in December and January. Buffalo usually is the snowiest place, but those other teams can also get really brutal in the winter as well. So, yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Especially Dolphins have always been regarded as a team that a lot of times plays bad depending on the weather, or can play really good depending on the weather. And it's because some of it's not their fault. They're put in a division where their 3 other teams in their division are all in the Northeast, and they're stuck in the hottest place, maybe other than Arizona, in the U.S. So
you'd almost think that a change with the Colts and Dolphins would be the smartest move in terms of region.
It probably would be, yeah.
But yeah, it's what I love about football is that with the scarcity of games and the elements, with the weather impact, schedules just matter more than any other sport in the NFL. But like I said, though another team that has been crashing and burning for many years and did so last season with Aaron Rodgers under center. It's the New York Jets. They finished 5-12 last year. They do have the 26th ranked strength of schedule coming into this season, but like I said, this whole division is looking at easier schedules. And you mentioned being lined up with the NFC South
and having to play each other.
Exactly. And it's being a weak division already. Fun week 1 matchup against Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, so that'll be a nice little reunion of a guy that was came and went in that organization as they look to move on with new head coach Aaron Glenn.
Well, for their quarterback, for the Jets quarterback too, that's a reunion for him because
that's funny. I just flip flop basically
double reunion.
Yeah. Well, let's start with Justin Fields because he will have probably the best wide receiver that he's ever had in his career in Garrett Wilson. I would put him above Pickens. I would put him above anything that Chicago gave to him in his years with the Bears. But he'll once again be under another defensive head coach. And while I like Aaron Glenn from the defensive coordinator from Detroit, Fields just hasn't gotten a break in this league. He's been under Eberflus, and I don't know who was before Eberflus in Chicago, but having Tomlin in Pittsburgh and now Aaron Glenn in New York, it's just been defensive head coach after defensive head coach, and he really just hasn't been able to develop as a quarterback in this league.
He did. He had Nagy. Did it? Did Nagy
Nagy,
coach?
that's who it
Nagy.
was.
He
That's who
wasn't
it
as
was.
an offensive guy, but I think he was. I don't know what happened. Really, he was bad towards. He started off good. He was bad towards the end of his
That
tenure.
crash and burn.
Yeah, but I mean, he's been put in bad situations. I agree, he hasn't been helped. But I mean,
Okay,
and
if he were to be put with the Kansas, if you flipped him and
well,
Mahomes,
yes,
would he have exactly? That's what I'm
he
saying.
wouldn't
I
be
know
as
I'm a
good
bit
as
of a
Mahomes,
homer.
but he would be.
Right.
He'd be. Yeah, I understand you're a homer. He's from Ohio State, but there are some like the fact that he's 0-22 against teams that score 21 or more points. That's just that's an alarming stat. He hasn't been given much help, but that's an alarming stat because the league average team score is 22.4. So so team he played average every game, he would have a losing record based off his previous games. Now, his weapons are better than usual on paper. Garrett Wilson, I think, is a very good receiver who's also kind of been. Actually, his teams haven't been very good, but I think last year he played pretty well. Even once the Jets
Yeah.
got Devontae Adams, he got. I think he had his career highs in like receptions and touchdowns. Um, so yeah, I mean, he's a star. They didn't play together, did they? I know they both went to Ohio State. Were they teammates?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay, yeah. No, yeah, I think Wilson would have been after. I think. I don't know. Ohio State's had so many good receivers, and
Wide receiver, you.
most of their quarterbacks play the the same, so it's hard to keep track of them all. But Brees Hall, another guy, good name on paper. I think he can complement Fields. I think that could be a scary backfield with Fields' dual threat abilities.
Right.
But yeah, I don't. But as a Jets fan, I know you've been in pain for the last 15 years since you haven't made the playoffs since 2010. But you might be immune to pain at this point. But do you really feel comfortable going into the season with Fields as your starter, with not much of a QB, with really no QB competition, like he's your certified starter? It's
Yeah, this is definitely a bridge year for the Jets. I don't see Fields as a long-term situation for them. They'll be definitely looking in the next at least couple drafts for more QB help, maybe even in free agency, looking for QB help. They do have Jermaine Johnson, one of their edge rushers, coming back off the IR from a torn Achilles in week 2 last season. He was a 2022 first rounder. He really took a huge step forward in 23 with 7.5 sacks, 36 pressures, and 16 QB hits. And we know Aaron Glenn loves edge rushers. He had him in Detroit, even though Hutchinson went down, but he does really good things with edge rushers. So it's a rebuilding year. Lots to learn for the first year head coach, but we'll see what happens here
their
in New
defense
York.
is still. I keep saying on paper because I go by names. Like if it's names you've heard of, like Sauce Gardner, Keenan Williams, both really good guys. I'll say they're stars. I think the jury's kind of still out on like Brees Hall after last year, and um, but yeah, they got some good defensive players, defensive coach. I think their defense is good enough to is maybe a playoff caliber defense, borderline. Statistically, they're still pretty good last year, but I do think they underperformed a little bit with what their expectations were. Their offense was just really inconsistent last year, and the whole Rodgers thing just didn't work, even though despite his good numbers. So yeah, and they had some weird special teams issues too. Like I remember, they started off 2-1 last year, and then they played that game in Denver. They played that game against Denver at home, and they lost 10-9. And Zerline badly missed a field goal, and I think that loss just kind of derailed their whole season. Like things just went full south after that. So they ultimately fired Saleh,
which I think was a bad move. I don't think they should have fired Saleh.
It would have been interesting to see if they could have turned the ship around because they're like 2-3. Yeah, they lost two in a row, 2-3. Not end of the world. You can recover from that. And then they fired him and uh, hired Jeff Ulbrich was he the special teams coordinator or something like
I
that?
believe so, something like
So
that.
yeah, so it's good. And Sala was a defensive guy, so they have a defensive guy back in the room, so it's good for their defense. But is it good for Fields? He is used to it by now, maybe. But it would have been nice to have had an offensive guy maybe once in his career. So yeah, they're in a tough spot, nowhere near Buffalo, but their talent on the defensive end and some of their skill players on the offensive end are good enough where they will pick off a couple good teams every now and then next year in the regular season. And looking at their schedule, the only note I had, since they don't have any big matchups really, is that and this is more just a complaint with the NFL. I hate it when teams play overseas and don't get a bye week the next week. I just think it's unfair. Jets, unfortunately, are in that scenario where they play Denver and London, and then they have to come back to the States with no bye week and play Carolina at home. So I just think that's unfortunate for them.
Yeah. And one last note on Fields: when we've seen these journeyman quarterbacks like Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, and last season Sam Darnold, all have career resurrections. Is it Fields' year? I don't think so. I do like the new energy in-house now with Aaron Glenn as the head coach. Like you said, getting it back to a defensive guy like they had in Saleh, like they had with Rex Ryan back in the day. That seems to kind of work for them, at least to just like nudge them into the playoffs. After that, I don't expect them to make any noise, but to me, it's just a rebuilding year. It might be one of the more quiet years in New York as far as the Jets. They won't have as many. They won't have the primetime games like they had with Rodgers. They won't have all that noise in house. It might just be a good year for them to just learn a lot about themselves and move on and be able to grow into the next season.
Unfortunately for Fields, when you're comparing to guys like Darnold, Mayfield, and Smith, is that I think those guys went to decent organizations, at worst, decent organizations. The Jets are not a decent organization. They're a
It's the last one you want to go to.
Last one you want to go to. It helps they got a new coach who comes from a winning organization. Well, funny Lions, a winning organization, but it's come from a winning team these last couple of years and built up a underrated defense. And statistically, you look at the Lions' defense, I think they were bad last year, but they were just absolutely hampered by injuries. But so that he does have that going for him. It's almost a new regime change, but yeah, this organization's been dysfunctional. Have not made the playoffs in 15 years, and I don't think that drought ends anytime soon.
Yeah, those guys, each of those guys either went to a well-established organization or they had a good offensive coordinator or offensive head coach, which Fields is coming into neither. So, yeah, just going to be another down year for the Jets, but I would enjoy watching them probably more this year. They're going to have a younger QB than they had last year, so maybe they'll be able to do some more interesting things offensively, but maybe just be looking at specific guys for the future, just to see some good things out of for the future teams. But let's look at the last team, maybe the most intriguing team of this division, and that's the New England Patriots. So last year they finished last in division with a 4-13 record. They get the 30th ranked strength of schedule coming into this new season. What I'm most excited to see about this team is under new head coach Mike Vrabel and offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. They're bringing the Belichick tree back together here in New England. Excited to see what Drake May can do coming off what was a pretty productive rookie season. He didn't have much to work with offensively, but I think with the way they've been able to load up a little bit offensively, especially with the line, it was a great pickup with Will Campbell. Getting Diggs in free agency, drafting Trevion Henderson from my Buckeyes, really bolster up the backfield and be able to take some of the pressure off of Drake May under center. You might not see it this season, but definitely by 2026, I think this might be this season might just be a sneak peek of what's to come as a future playoff team. Plenty of free agent acquisitions, like I said, with Diggs. But they also got some good acquisitions on defense with a great secondary, Carlton Davis III, and they already had Christian Gonzalez there as well. So a very intriguing team. I know a lot of people are already picking them to be the new Houston Texans, the new Washington Commanders, what happened last season. I'm not going to go that far. I don't think they'll even make the playoffs, but I think an improvement, even doubling their win total from last season, could definitely be in the cards for them.
Yeah, they also got Milton Williams, big defensive tackle from Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. They pay him a lot of money. Harold Landry they got from the Titans, Robert Spillane from the Raiders. So yeah, they
made
really
a lot of noise.
They made a lot of noise, especially on the defensive end. They were not afraid to spend money. Yeah, and like you said, pairing Davis with Christian Gonzalez, who hopefully stays healthy. That's a big if, because when he does play, he's shown he can be a really good lockdown corner. But unfortunately, he hasn't played very much due to injuries. So hopefully he can stay healthy. But we didn't even mention Vrabel. I think Vrabel was a fantastic hire. A lot of people think Gerard Mayo got the wrong end of the deal when he got laid off. But I mean, this team, yeah, he didn't have much to work with, and it does kind of suck because I think they kind of wanted to hire Vrabel all along, and they finally got him this year. They had to kick Gerard Mayo out, but yeah, they were not good last year. Like I said earlier, they had 7 double-digit losses, finished 4-13. And this is just a grievance I have sometimes. So it always goes. This is about last year with the Patriots. They always talk about how great it was for Mahomes to sit back and watch in his rookie year. Alex Smith, then he took over. Mahomes is just Mahomes. What is Drake May going to learn by watching Jacoby Brissett run that offense? like seriously, I'm going to learn to be a better quarterback watching. I'm learning really good things watching this putrid offense. No disrespect to Jacoby Brissett, but I mean he's older. He's not going to run the offense like Drake May will. I think they wasted a few games of his. To me, most cases you throw your rookie quarterback out there. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. Your team might not be very good, but he's got to learn. Because not every quarterback's Mahomes is just gifted. I mean, you got to learn. You got to develop. So that was just my big grievance last year. I wish we could have seen Drake May earlier. But yeah, the question is he going to be good? He showed signs last year. Had a horrible pieces to work with. Ramondre Stevenson's a good running back. I think that Henderson and Stevenson duo could be pretty effective, especially with a young quarterback. But yeah, we got to learn if Drake May can be good for this team. I don't know. I was initially somewhat excited about the Diggs acquisition. He's kind of dealing with some off the field issues right now. So I don't really know if he's going to be a good locker room help. Jury's still out there. We do have a couple months till season starts, so maybe he'll get his act together. But because outside of Diggs, I mean, it's not very good weapons. Arguably, Hunter Henry's your best pass catcher. He's an okay tight end. So I think, yeah, Trayvon Henderson and Stevenson might need to be ready to carry the workload. But, I mean, Vrabel teams, look at Derrick Henry. Look at the Derrick Henry years, loves to run. I mean, you made it to the AFC Championship with Tannehill and became one of the number 1 overall seed in the AFC with Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback because Vrabel teams love to run, love to be physical. So, yeah, to me, I think this is clearly the second best team in the division. This is assuming Drake May's not terrible, which I don't think he will be, assuming he elevates his game at least a little bit from his rookie year, bare minimum. I think that puts him as the second best team in the division with the acquisition, but mostly because of the head coaching position that was filled in the offseason with Mike Vrabel, because I think that guy just brings toughness and winning with him wherever he goes.
Yeah, I think bringing that kind of that regime, that Belichick core there, might just be what New England needs to get back to the glory years.
With a guy who has experience, because Mayo was from that, but he had no experience.
Right. So yeah, let's. If you don't have any more notes on the Patriots, I'd say we get into these over/under win totals.
The only thing I had about their schedule is that they're. So even during the Brady years, they own the division, but you always know that At Miami was always a difficult game for them. Something about the weather change. We talked about Miami's playing in the weather earlier, how they can sometimes be better than their opponents or much worse than their opponents, depending on the weather. Well, unfortunately for the Patriots, they get that at Miami game week 2, so that's early in the year. That's not really good for the history. Looking at the history, they have not won at Miami since 2019. And even, I mean, that was Brady's last year, but even before that, I mean, Brady's record in Miami wasn't anything Brady-esque compared to how we own the rest of the division. So, yeah, that might be a guaranteed loss. Just for anyone interested in that, but that doesn't take away anything else from the Patriots roster. I just think every team, usually a lot of teams have that guaranteed loss every year, and that to me that's where the Patriots is.
I like it. Like I said, let's get into these over under win totals. We like to do betting lines here at the K&L Sports Huddle. So first off, I'm going to just start with actually let's do I'll do the division standings with the over under win total. What we think what it's going to turn out to be. Right now, I think 1, 2, 3, 4 for this division going to be Bills, Patriots, Dolphins, Jets. That's how I see things playing out. My over under win total for the Bills, and with these you can get different win totals that you can look at on FanDuel. This is what we're taking them from, but I'm going with over 11.5 at minus 155. You could even get a little risky on it, push some money on maybe an over 13.5 at plus 220, get some even better value. They finished 13-4 last year. There's no reason to think they couldn't repeat that and get at least one more win on top of that. Patriots, I see actually under 8.5 at minus 125. Right now, it's a good line at that 8.5, and I don't really want to go over 8.5 and say that they're going to have a winning record this season. I just don't want to make that risky play. I would say for the Patriots, just stay away. The lines look really good on FanDuel right now. I just don't think I'd touch it. Dolphins under 6.5. That's my favorite win total pick.
What's that at?
That's at plus 155.
So you
Getting
got
good
that
value on it.
Isn't that like 8.5?
You're getting
8.5
minus.
7.5?
8.5 is minus value.
And what about 7.5? Do you know?
I'm not sure what the 7.5 was. And then for my New York Jets over under win total, I'm going under 5.5. It's not a great pick. It's another stay away. You are getting plus 125 on that, but they finished with 5 wins last season. I could see it happening again right around 5. So it might actually be a decent pick. It's a good line.
Okay, so yeah, for my division, I have the top two exactly you have. I'm going to flip the Dolphins and the Jets because, like I said, that's my bold prediction: is the Dolphins are going to be one of the worst teams in the league next year. Just I think everything's going to come crashing and burning on this organization this year, unfortunately for them. You were exactly what I was thinking. You had exactly what I was thinking on these bets. I was like, I did not like the Patriots. I was like, I really don't know what to expect from this team. Yeah, 8.5 is the absolute perfect number.
Too risky to go with the over, just looking at how, there's a lot of hype around this team coming into this season with the new coach and the promising quarterback. I just don't. I think it's too much.
I would go over 7.5 if it dropped down to 7.5. I would take the over, because I would pick this team as like an 8-9 range. That's where I see them. But that 8.5, yeah, I wouldn't touch that. Dolphins easy under. I looked up today. It said 8.5, which I couldn't believe. I don't. That's an easy under. And then the Jets. That's another. I feel maybe I don't even like picking the Jets either at 5.5s. Gun to head, I maybe go over just because they have Aaron Glenn seems like a competent guy, and they have star players on their team that they could eke out 6 wins. I could see that happening. I don't feel comfortable with that at all. I do feel really comfortable with the Bills and Dolphins. That 11.5 is super low, especially when I talk about how easy I feel like their schedule sets up for them. Yeah, they went 13-4 last year, with one of those losses being a Week 18 rest your starters loss.
Right.
Yeah, that 11.5 is pretty easy to take and then they didn't get any worse in the offseason. So pretty easy over on 11.5 there.
Yeah. So if you guys listening, if you guys agree with our picks, definitely let us know. If you guys have something different, tell us, because I got a lot of hate for my MLB commissioner stuff. You guys came after me today with and yesterday with the MLB commissioner changes. So
I think I've
definitely bring.
gotten, I don't know, no one's really treated me wrong for the NBA yet. So,
I know they seem to like yours. You got a bunch of
but
likes, but not a lot of
that
hate.
is the league that needed more change. So I think yeah. So
Yeah, they didn't like my changes with the schedule and stuff. But if you are listening on YouTube, definitely hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We're a young podcast just looking to grow here. If you're listening on Spotify, follow, rate, and review. Definitely help us out on that side. We are on Instagram, like I said. You can see our most recent post on my MLB commissioner changes. Gotten a lot of comments on that, a lot of good engagement on that post. So definitely look us up on there, Huddle KL Sports on Instagram. Before we finish off with the football stuff, Logan, I'm going to hand this over to you. It's going to be our fantasy football focus. Just give me some top performers, some fantasy draft steals for all the fantasy football players out there. Give them some advice on maybe some stay away players as well.
a lot can change in a year. That's all I got to say. Let's say there were like 3 guys in this division who were, if you were in a 12-man league, 3 guys who probably would go in the first round, including a guy who'd taken the top 3. None of those guys are anywhere near the top 10 right now, or top 12 right now. Who would you guess the top 2 guys in the entire division are fantasy wise?
Josh
So
Allen.
this is based off the draft order for Yahoo.
Ooh.
So
I don't know. There's not a lot of good. Tyreek Hill.
he's a guy who was easy first round pick last year. He's ranked 39th. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and my other guess would have been Josh Allen after that.
He's second. That's what shocks me. That shows you the lack of skill strength in this for fantasy wise in this division when your quarterback is second. Granted, Josh Allen is QB1 because he runs a lot, scores a lot of rushing touchdowns. But still, I mean, he's ranked 27th and he's the second highest rated guy in the AFC East. First is Devin Achane of the Miami Dolphins, good running back, great breakaway speed. I would say, yeah, if he's hanging around 18th, which is where Yahoo has him ranked, I would definitely take him. So yeah, there were several disappointing guys last year in this division. Like we said, Tyreek, his buddy Jalen Waddle, he had a really disappointing year. Obviously, QB play didn't help these guys very much with Tua going out, but still, even when Tua played, these guys weren't. Well, Jalen Waddle was like a wide receiver 2-ish, but even he kind of underperformed that. Tyreek Hill, yeah, vastly underperformed his top 3 receiver in the league for fantasy-wise potential. And then, yeah, Breece Hall, he was going second or third overall in some drafts last year, and that was a not a good pick for those people, unfortunately, because his ranking went down a lot by the end of last year. He's now 40th according to Yahoo on the which I think is a little too low in my opinion. I think I would almost put him as a sleeper. I think he's getting disrespected too much. I think the backfield with Justin Fields, I think that could create some more opportunities for him. Let's see, 40th in a 12-man league. That would be round number 4. Yeah, that's too low for a guy like him. I feel like, because he wasn't awful last year. He just didn't perform nearly good enough for top 3 pick. So when I look at sleepers, my view of sleepers is I don't analyze every single player and like, oh, I see potential here. Look at these rookies. My biggest sleepers are backups for when your A guy goes down, who's going to step up, take their place, who's going to be like, oh, is this guy on the waiver wire? Oh, crap, that guy picked him up early in the year. That's smart. So, like, you look at Devin A-Chain's backup. Last year it was Raheem Mostert. That was a great duo. Mostert's now, I believe, with the Raiders, I believe. So now it's Jalen Wright. So he's a guy to eye in the later rounds, especially if you have A-Chain, because I'm a big believer that you should have your top skill position guys. You're on your bench. You should have their backups, just in case shit hits the fan and your guy gets a torn Achilles or ACL and is out the rest of the year. So yeah, I look at the Dolphins backup, Jalen Wright. I mentioned earlier James Cook. I just think Josh Allen likes to check it down to him, and the fact that the Bills don't have any number one guys. Khalil Shakir's ranked 97th on draft boards, so that's the top pass catcher, not counting Cook on the Bills, which is pretty dang low. So yeah, I like they have James Cook ranked 28th. I view him early. I could see taking him late second round. I think 28's a little too low on him. Diggs is a stay away for me guy. You mentioned go over some stay away guys. I think last year I had Diggs on my team with the Texans, and he was a pretty good end zone guy. He caught several touchdowns before he went out. But so I would have been high on him this year, but I just think there's too much off the field drama, and that situation could get really sticky, and I just don't like it. But I do love Patriots running backs. I think either one would be good to have in case one goes down. But Trayvon Henderson's obviously ranked higher. He's got the higher upside. Rookie, dominated Ohio State. I think he in a middle round, if you already have a quarterback taken, I would say you're looking for a good running back. That's a guy to get. And even Ramondre Stevenson, they have him ranked 110th. I think that's a great get at that position. I wouldn't say draft him any higher, but if he's available there, I wouldn't pass on him. Because he had a decent year last year. He performed about where he was expected to. So, yeah. And then, actually, I do have one more sleeper. I'll give it to you. So Garrett Wilson's obviously going to be the number one target probably for Fields, but arguably I think number two could go to the rookie tight end from Miami, Mason Taylor. Fields, I could see him looking for a 5-yard out pass to a tight end every now and then for a few possessions. Tight end's always been a weird fantasy position, especially these last couple of years, where it feels like unless you have a real top guy, it's just throwing. You're just throwing rocks at this position. You don't really know what you're going to get. So, I would feel pretty comfortable taking him as a tight end 2 later in the draft. He's not ranked high at all on draft boards, so I guess that is the definition of a sleeper. Because when you have a QB who's going to be under a lot of duress probably with Justin Fields, it's good to always have a reliable tight end. And the Jets picked one with their second round pick, so I could see him being a productive enough tight end that he could start if your tight end 1 goes down or is on bye.
Awesome. There you have it. There's Logan's fantasy football focus. Take his advice, and you'll dominate your fantasy football leagues this year. We'll continue doing that throughout each of these divisions, and he'll give you some good advice on players within each division to take in your drafts and maybe pick up during free agency during the in-between weeks. That'll do it for us here with our NFL content in the AFC East. We will be back next week. We're going to be previewing the AFC North. So any Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, or Browns fans out there, definitely tune in next week, and we'll break down all of your favorite teams and over-under win totals and fantasy football advice. That's it for us here at the KNL Sports Huddle. I'm Cage Kiplinger. That's Logan Hubert, and we will see you next week.